son, Mike Heldreth. We've dated for 4 years, lived together for 6 years, a total of 10, and then got married. We're together for 15 years and had problems, drastic problems. Came to church my very first time, and Micah had a sermon on not holding things. And a member of the church said to me, "Mike, you couldn't have been here in a better time than today." He says, "Why don't you go talk to him?" So I walked up front after church was over. Micah just looked at me, and I just started crying. I couldn't even talk. And that was a bad thing for my family. Never showed tears. That shows a weakness. But I couldn't speak. And he said to me, "I can see you're having problems. Can you tell me about them?" And I said, I can't talk. The only thing I could get out was my wife left me. And he said to me, "You can't do this alone. I'm with you." And he gave me his cell phone number. I couldn't even put it in my phone. He did it for me. And he says to me, "Call me at 3 o'clock in the morning and test me, see if I'll answer." I didn't do that. And he said to me, I don't specialize in this, couples. He said, "But I want you to meet somebody, and that's Fred Guidi." Well, I went for another week. Didn't hear from Fred. Kind of being off alone by myself. Thinking of her all the time. That's all I ever did. Think every minute of the day. I came to church that Sunday and met Fred outside. After church, I sat with Fred for 5 hours here in this church, talking and discussing things. Made me a part of his family. Told me I couldn't do this alone, which Mike had already told me that. I knew that. After that, Fred called me every 2 days or so. And Fred's a very busy man. He is traveling all the time. One particular time he was in New York going on a race, and he calls me. He says, "Hey, Mike," and I couldn't understand. All I could hear was the bikes in the background. Whoa, whoa, whoa. He says, "I'm minutes away from going on a race, just minutes, but I wanted to call and tell you that I love you." And I just burst into tears. Couldn't happen at a better time.
And oh, how he loves us so. Oh, how he loves us.
I tend to overthink things, and I had contemplated a long time for several years because we had a lot of issues. He does have anger issues. He's very controlling. He's very jealous. If I wasn't at work or with him, I was questioned about where I was, what I was doing, who I was speaking to. And I had never done anything for him to not trust me, and so I resented him for that. In the last few years before I left, I started building up a wall, and I kept building that wall and building that wall. And when our son was 12, I had started pushing him away. I was pushing all my friends away. I wasn't talking to people. But I'm also a very private person, and I keep my feelings to myself. I don't tell people. My mother's one of my best friends, but she did not know what was going on because I was afraid I wouldn't have the courage to leave. And if she knew the things that were happening and knew how I felt, she would hold that against Mike, and that would make things even worse. The day I left wasn't a planned thing. I had just gotten to the point where I couldn't take no more. I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping. I had went for, I don't know, 3 or 4 days without sleep. I'd get up and go to work. There were times when he would be in bed and I would sit downstairs in the dark in the living room in the recliner and just sit there by myself, because that's where I wanted to be. That was the only place I felt safe, was when I was alone. Nobody could hurt me. Nobody could do anything to me that way. And leading up to me leaving, I would sit and think to myself, my father was an alcoholic and was abusive to my mother my whole life. And I never understood why she stayed until I was in high school and she'd finally had enough. And he was suicidal and had attempted suicide numerous times in his life. And I never understood that. And when I sat and thought one night, not really contemplating suicide, but I started to understand how someone gets to that point, I was scared. And that was when I knew it was time to go. And that's when I left.
The day she left me, if my son would have went, I was going to kill myself. There's a reason that he didn't let go. Every day, driving to and from work, I would pray. And I'd say, please, Lord, bring me my wife back to me every single day.
What I was surprised by was the fact that when I left, Mike started attending church. And that's something that we had done at one point in our life. And then he started a different job and he worked so much, he quit going to church, and then I quit going to church. It wasn't, it just was something that we just didn't do.
And I said, tell you what, church is at 10:45. You meet me before church and we'll go to church together. She said, okay. So at 8 o'clock that morning, she was at the house, got ready, came to church. And everybody was glowing. Everybody in this church. And I'm not a huggy person, touchy-feely. And I got a lot of hugs that day. Debbie Mick, you look like a person that needs a hug. Can I give you a hug? And I was like, kind of afraid, but yeah. Thank you, Debbie. There's a lot of special people in this church.
Jerry and Kathy
Shea
have been a huge inspiration to us every time that we see one of them.
I got this chip from Kathy and Jerry, and it says on there, someone prayed for you today. And on the other side it says, God loves you.
I have the same one.
I carry it in my pocket all the time.
As I do too, yes.
The little things that people do that change, they have been dramatic to me.
Yeah.
I hug Jerry. I'm not a touchy-feely thing. I hug Jerry every Sunday. And I'm learning to express my love. I'm a lot better than I was before.
And oh, how he loves us so. Oh, how.
Slowly but surely, my walls are coming down. They're still there. I have issues. I'm not perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. But God's love for me is perfect. I've learned that here in this building from the people that go to this church. That they're the people that have been there for us. They've been instrumental in us getting back together, as well as a lot of other people in this church. And I was very shut down when I started coming back to church. But when I come in here on Sunday mornings, I'm open to anybody that wants to give me a hug, and I get more than enough hugs every morning when I walk through those doors. And this is the place I want to be, and I used to sit back there and not say anything, and I kept my head down when I come in here on Sunday mornings. I look forward to anything and everything that I learn. And this is the place that I'm supposed to be, and I will be here anytime the doors are open.
I look forward to it. I have a church family here.
Just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. And oh, how he loves.
My name is Mike Heldreth.
My name is Lavelle Heldreth,
And we are the well.
How